Some breaking news from the Dallas Stars, Jeff,
Yeah.
regarding the signing of a goaltender.
Yeah, it's $29 million. It's 6 years. It's Ben Bishop, soon to be 31 years old, and he now joins about, $11 million worth of goaltenders in Dallas right now, and Kari Lehtinen and Antti Niemi, so a decision for Jim Nill to be still to be made there. But, one of the problems they've isolated, despite the fact that many have pointed on the Dallas blue line, losing Goligoski and Demers may be the biggest hole that they have yet to fill. And I didn't think Kari Lehtinen had that bad of a season last year. But that's one of the areas still of identification where Dallas has said, we need help there. And if you're the Dallas Stars, I remember when they went to that two-goalie split at 50-50 system, Lehtinen and Niemi, one of the reasons why they did that was the onerous travel that Dallas has to withstand. And they were finding by going with one goaltender, you play it down the stretch, and by the end of the season, it really takes it out of a goalie. So you can understand the need for two. But they've now turned 2 into 3 and now have a decision to make, Gordon.
Well, a great 10 days for them. They win the lottery to get number 3 overall. They move up. The Patrick Eaves trade, one of those little provisos, they make it to the conference finals, so the second-round pick becomes a first-round pick.
Yep.
It'll be a late first-round pick. And good on Jim Nill. It's kind of like Vancouver maybe could have done years ago, or Ottawa or teams, Philadelphia years ago, address the goaltending. You talk about it every year, why you think it's going to work. Not good enough. I've got to think Antti Niemi's got $5.25 million would be a logical buyout if they can't move him somewhere else to get rid of the $11 million or $16 million worth of goaltending salaries.
I'm glad you mentioned the draft as well, because third overall, as you mentioned, with the Dallas Stars. And Dallas, to me, listen, New Jersey's got a wonderful spot. Philadelphia's got a wonderful spot. And Dallas is sitting pretty, too. Make the pick, take the defenseman you want, hello, Mira Heiskanen, or you can trade the pick, move down, still get an asset. You can move it to address your goaltending situation, perhaps even help to move a goaltender and get an asset. I can't help but wondering if come draft day, if Jim Nill isn't the big mover in all of it. Not unlike we saw Jim Rutherford a couple of seasons ago with the Phil Kessel deal, which is, I can still remember that day, all the Pittsburgh Penguins, when everyone had left, everyone at the Pittsburgh Penguins table still staying there. And we're watching. We're saying, why are they all screaming at each other? Why are they yelling? Why are they arguing? And it was over what turned into the Phil Kessel deal. You wonder if Dallas could be that team at the draft this year with that third overall pick, and now with 3 starting goaltenders.
A Friday night in Chicago, June 23rd is the first round of the National Hockey League draft, when so many moves have been made over the last couple of years. What does this do to the Dallas Stars being in contention? Other teams in the Western Conference looking at a club that was so good 2 years ago, won the division during the regular season, could score with anybody, then took a big step back last year to fall outside the playoff picture and into the lottery.
Well, our scheduled first guest would be a good example, the Ottawa Senators. What can happen about a Eastern Conference team that took a step back, but you still had to look and focus on what you had that was positive and then grow from there. The Dallas Stars can't do wholesale changes. Upgrading the goaltending is huge. None of these drafted players will be an impact player next year, but they expect to be like Ottawa is this season. Injuries will be a huge factor. I like Jim Nill doesn't use it as an excuse as much. It's a big excuse for them, but they still seem to have the foot soldiers.
John Klingberg took a step back this year. He wasn't that same guy we saw 2 years ago, really quietly, and it hasn't really been sort of widely discussed. But, Dan Hamhuis, when you look at the underlying numbers, really had a decent season. Dan Hamhuis stepped in and was good for Dallas. But Klingberg takes a step back. You lose Goligoski, you lose Demers, and you fill it with kids. And you fill it with, whether it's Nemeth, whether it's, Julius Honka, who they're still waiting to become that guy, Stephen John. You're waiting for these guys to develop, but you're doing it on the fly coming off a 100-point season. And when you don't have a defense that can move the puck up to the forwards, what do you really know about those forwards? Missing out on a couple of first-rounders, seeing Valeri Nichushkin go back to the KHL, that's a tough one to swallow. So still some holes there, but to me, the two biggest, and my positional default is always on the blue line. I look at the blue line and say, losing those 2 key defensemen, despite the fact that Hamhuis had a nice season, that one's still a tough one for Dallas to get over.
Dallas makes the trade with the Los Angeles Kings to acquire the negotiating rights to Ben Bishop, and then capitalizes on it, and they acquire the best goaltender available.